everyone. This is Miro Krenho from Our Daily Planet, and today we're really excited to have Teresa Ish with us of the Walton Family Foundation. And so we wanted to ask Teresa a bit about fish policy, about sustainable fish, because as we've all been home, we've certainly been consuming more fish, we've been cooking, and we might as well know about what it means to eat sustainably and to protect our oceans through our food choices. So thank you so much for being with us today, Teresa.
Thanks for having me.
So, Teresa, you have this really fun job and you work in sort of the largest commodity food business in the world, and that you're, helping to make fishing more sustainable. But how do you persuade people in this giant business to change their policies and to do things more sustainably?
I think one of the things we need to remember about seafood and fisheries in particular is they're wild animals. They're animals we catch in the ocean. And so if you run a seafood business and there aren't fish in the ocean, it's really hard to keep selling fish. And so this is one of those environmental issues where there's actually quite a bit of alignment across the board with companies and fishers who are thinking about the long term of their business. Many seafood businesses are family owned, passed down generation to generation, and they want to be able to pass down their fishing operations or their companies to their children as well. And so these CEOs and these members of the seafood industry see that their success is dependent on having a healthy ocean and healthy fisheries to provide their business with fish to sell.
And so to follow up on that, Teresa, I wanted to ask, sustainable means a lot of things to different people. And I know when I go to the grocery store, I see a ton of labels, whether it's on eggs or orange juice. But in the context of fish, what does sustainable mean?
For wild fisheries, a sustainable fishery is one where the management decisions are based on good scientific information. The people fishing for that fish comply with those management rules. And the scientists, the government, the fishers, the seafood industry, and conservation groups are working together to ensure that the fishery is operating in a way that doesn't hurt the ocean ecosystem, but also ensures that there's some fish left in the water to grow in the future. And so that's all very technical, and most of us don't have access as consumers to that type of information. That's where you end up with certifications like the Marine Stewardship Council, who looks into fisheries, does that research for you, and then works with the companies in the seafood supply chain to verify that that fish that you're buying with that logo came from a fishery that has those management measures in place and has the support of the fishing community and the fishing industry, as well as good management practices in place to ensure that there are fish now and in the future. But I think increasingly people are also looking at the social sustainability associated with fisheries too. And so you're starting to see fair trade certified fisheries come out, which ensure that small scale fisheries, the fishers who are fishing for the products, are being paid fairly for their goods, just like you would see with coffee or cocoa. They're starting to also embark on these environmental management measures too, so that they will have fish long into the future. And then we're also seeing a lot of work happening right now to address risks associated with human rights abuses on some large fishing vessels. And while there's no certification for that, more and more companies are really looking at the rights of the people producing the fish as part of their sustainability messaging and their sustainability values.
That is so important. There are so many abuses that have happened in the past, and it's great to see the industry kind of getting on board and fixing it itself, which is sort of our next question about markets and the use of markets. Why is that such a focus, particularly for the Walton Family Foundation, the use of markets to try to change sustainability practices?
We believe the supply chain has a really important role in helping to both scale sustainability practices beyond one country, beyond one region, but also to become champions for sustainability, because the reality is that their influence and their financial position allows these companies to have a very loud voice when it comes to fisheries management. And it's important that they, as people, as companies that are dependent on healthy fisheries, become advocates for healthy fisheries so that those fisheries can be effectively managed by governments around the world. And so we really see them as partners and champions for the same values that we have for good management and healthy oceans. We still work very closely with fishing communities and ensure that their voices are heard in management, and also working with governments to help them have the skills, the tools, the capacity that they need to manage fisheries. But the voices of the supply chain and seafood industry are really important to help get governments willing to move and make changes.
I want to pivot a little because one of our goals at Our Daily Planet is to inspire younger generations to get interested in conservation, to go into a career that really supports our planet. And I wanted to ask, how did you get into a career in fish policy? Because I remember in school, I mean, there was certainly marine biology, but I never really knew that fish policy was an option. But how did you get into it, and how did your broader interest in conservation develop?
Well, I started thinking I was going to do forestry, and then I started surfing, and then all bets were off there because I wanted a way to keep myself by the coast. I now live in Denver, so that didn't work out, but I still really care about the issue and the oceans, and wanting to be near the ocean was initially what brought me to marine biology. Then I think it's interesting to move from sort of studying the marine ecosystem to really looking at the drivers that are having effects on it. I mean, when I was in school studying this, it was right when the West Coast groundfish fishery collapsed. That fishery had a very personal role in my life. My grandfather was a huge recreational fisherman in Santa Cruz. He would go out on the commercial charter boat. The charter company would pay for him to fish because he caught so many fish. He didn't want the people who didn't catch anything to feel like it was his fault. My grandfather would come home with a bag of rockfish and distribute it to all of his neighbors in Santa Cruz. And when that fishery collapsed, it was really evident to me how we went from such abundance to really not being able to eat the iconic fish of California, of the West Coast. It really made me want to do something very practical and applicable to helping that stock recover. Seeing that a natural food store in Santa Cruz, which had all this beautiful organic stuff, was selling rockfish when this fishery was at the bottom. It was evident that there was this disconnect between how companies operated and the values that they held because they didn't know. I really wanted to help them understand, help them see that, and help them make better decisions. Now in Denver, it's kind of shifted and really thinking about food and culture and how people connect to the ocean through the food that they eat. I mean, more people are likely to eat fish than go to the beach on a daily basis. And so really thinking about all of that in the context of a healthy ocean and the importance of food to a sustainable planet is really what keeps me in this and excited about this issue.
What a great story about your grandfather. And I think a lot of people connect to the ocean through fishing, actually.
Teresa, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. Like I said, we've talked to a lot of readers, and I think that people are really just finding ways to make sustainable choices at home now that we're all stuck at home and we're really kind of faced with the impacts. We know what we buy at the store, especially what we put in our mouths. So this was really great and really informative. And we hope that for our younger listeners today, that they might get inspired to think about fish policy and marine biology, because this is a really important field, and we really can't hope to feed all the people on the planet without healthy fish stocks. So we need more people to get involved in this fight. So thank you so much for the inspiration.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And for those people who aren't going to go in and study fish policy, now's the time to try cooking new fish. And the Eat Seafood America website has great recipes and cooking demos and more ways for you to try new fish. It's one of the foods that by choosing and loving sustainable seafood, we're actually helping the fish population. So it's nice to have something that's both good for us and great for the environment.